Football, £2 billion to own Manchester United. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 31. MGM Hotel. In front of the hotel, Tan Wenla fan stared and staggered to the door. Who knows, a woman came out of nowhere behind him, and inexplicably the two collided together. I'm sorry, didn't hurt you, did it? Tan Wenla said apologetically. Then, Tan Wenla looked up and saw a blonde beauty with black eyes. Christine? Tan Wenla looked back at the one in front of him in surprise. A few years later, he was known as a wrench in the world, and now, he is still a youthful and beautiful stunner. After Christine glanced at Tan Wenla coldly, she did not speak and left directly. Tan Wenla pouted at his efforts, and said in his heart, "What's so great, bumping into someone and running away without even saying a word? Human wrench, you are awesome." Tan Wenla, who had broken thoughts in his mouth, walked out of the hotel leisurely. "Boss." Max, who saw Tan Wenla from afar, beckoned and shouted repeatedly. Tan Wenla walked to the phantom very tiredly, and Max directly opened the door for Tan Wenla and asked Tan Wenla to get into the car. "Behold, why did you come up? Why are you here?" "I'm sorry, it's me who was not good just now. Please go down, we are waiting for someone." "Sorry, this fucking is my car, you sit in my car and dry hair?" Tan Wenla stared at Christine deadly, cursing and roaring very arrogantly. Christine listened to Tan Wenla's words, half understood, and a little hazy. However, she knew that Tan Wenla's mouth was definitely not a good word. Boss, what's wrong with you?" Max quickly shouted outside the car and asked, "Max, why are these girls in the car?" "Oh, boss, Christine is also an artist under our company. Yesterday's premiere ceremony was specially organized for her. She also happened to rest at the MGM Hotel yesterday, and picked her up today to deal with some things in the company. Just along the way, I thought about walking together." "Max, he's us boss?" Christine looked at Tan Wenla in disbelief and said, "Why, don't I look like the boss?" Christine was a little speechless by Tan Wenla. Tan Wen was happy to see that Christine was no longer talking, so he sat directly next to Christine. "Max, drive." Good. Max quickly got into the car and ordered the driver to trigger towards IMG. On the road, Tan Wenla and Christine sat back. The two did not say a word, and there was no unnecessary physical movement between them. Somehow, on the road ahead, suddenly a black boy stepped on a skateboard and rushed past the car. In order to avoid, the driver slammed on the brakes, and the steering wheel twisted slightly. Although there were no traffic accidents, just minor accidents, the entire body of these two expensive less still had a sharp cushion. Oops, Christine felt like the whole person almost flew out. At this time, an arm that felt very thin hugged her tightly from one side, and Christine's whole person fell in the direction of Tan Wenla under the impact. Tan Wenla turned slightly sideways, half of his body was accumulated behind the front seat, and on the other side he was supporting Christine, who seemed delicate but was actually hot-tempered. "Boss, are you alright?" "It's okay, what's wrong with the front?" "Oh, it's a little ghost who ran a red light." The driver subconsciously stepped on the brakes. "Didn't hit anyone, did you?" "That's not it." "Well, that's okay, let's go." "Good boss." In the back row, Christine slightly shook her shoulders, and then, sitting up straight, brushed her hair, thereby covering up the embarrassment she had just had. Tan Wenla also straightened his body at this time, and his eyes turned to look at the golden color outside the window. "Well, the building in the United States is quite tall," Tan Wenla said incoherently to himself. "Boss, thank you." Christine's voice was slightly faint and said towards Tan Wenla. Oh, it's okay," Tan Wenla responded awkwardly. The awkward atmosphere lasted for a few minutes, and both Tan Wenla and Christine looked out the window on one side. "Actually, you look beautiful, huh?" "Hee, thanks." Christine was caught off guard by Tan Wenla's sudden praise. "Boss, actually, you're also very men," Christine said with a rare smile to Tan Wenla. In fact, I think I am indeed okay. How to say that I have also practiced sports." Tan Wenla seemed to want to show his strong body in front of Christine, and patted the muscles on his upper arm towards Christine. Christine's slender palm reached towards Tan Wenla's big arm at this time, and gently squeezed his big arm, revealing a playful grimace and sighing at him. "That's it? Oh, lying groove, who is the joke about?" Christine poked her finger at Tan Wenla's chest with a look of disgust, and her expression was very disgusted. "Boss, please forgive me, I take back what I just said. Alas? As a pure master of pure Chinese blood, I was looked down upon by a North American girl. Can I bear this?" Tan Wenla directly grabbed Christine's arm and pulled him to his side. The other hand pinched Christine's seductive jaw, and then began to stamp on her slender red lips. Max sat in the co-pilot, seemed to hear the movement behind. He did not look back, silently stretched out his hand, and pulled the curtain of the middle partition tightly. Struggle, resistance, embrace, heat asterisk. Gradually, Christine's heart was gradually conquered little by little. Downstairs at IMG, a less phantom was parked. A pair of golden children and jade girls came down from the car one after the other, and they said that some of them walked into the building. Max silently followed behind the two of them, a sly smile on the corner of his mouth. "Boss, can I see David later?" "Why, do you like him too?" Christine nodded vigorously. "Will there be that woman who can resist David's charm?" Of course, when I finish talking to him about work in a while, I will arrange for the two of you to meet. Mua, thank you boss. After that, Christine took the lead and ran towards the IMG building. Boss, this little girl is very lively. Max, please put your energy into your work in the future. Episode 32. Kevin, you bastard, you betrayed me? Max, what are you talking about? What did I betray you? I was planning a remake in the studio this morning, and I was dying. What's the matter? Can you say okay? Boss, how did you know? What does the boss know? Kevin asked in a puzzled tone. What else can you know? Of course it is yes. Even by Ka, my god, the boss knows? You didn't offer me out, did you? Huh? Didn't you really tell the boss? Last night, up to now, I had a phone call with the boss and told him that you made an appointment with David of the Galaxy team today. The boss felt very tired, and I didn't have time to say anything else. Max took a deep breath, and then continued, Kevin, the boss is smarter than we think. You old fellow, I said that sooner or later this matter will have to be worn. You still don't believe it. It must be Charlize, that smelly woman who betrayed us both. Probably not. Then you say, why did the boss notice? It's hard to say. Anyway, it's better to be cautious in doing things in the future, so be it. David is already here. I'm going to pick him up. After Kevin heard Max talk about the phone hang up, he angrily cursed. Fuck. Just last night, after Tan Wenle and George reached an agreement to acquire a Song of Ice and Fire, Tan Wenle's system was successfully upgraded. Ding, congratulations to the host. Complete the primary business layout planning, system upgrade. Ding, added new module data analysis. Scripts marks, host loyalty, 100, mind events, 1. Kevin Feige, host loyalty, 100, mind events, 1. David Gill, host loyalty, 100, mind events, 0. Charlize Theron, affection for the host, 35, mind events, 2. Kristen Stewart, affection for the host, 75, mind event, 1. Sitting in the office of the president of IMG, Tan Wenle looked at the new functions he added yesterday, and a smug smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Subsequently, the scheming events of Max, Kevin, and Christine were erased and cleared. However, Charlize was still two pieces, not moving. Maybe Charlize is still replenishing sleep at this time, right? At this time, there was a knock on the door of the president's office, and Max walked in through the door with David Beckham. Tan Wenle got up and hugged Beckham. At this time, although Xiaobei is 33 years old, he is less youthful and immature, and his body exudes more of the unique charm of a mature man. He is really handsome, the kind of handsomeness that no one can match. Chairman Tan, I have watched the recent matches of Manchester United, and you played very well. Xiaobei looked at Tan Wenle with a smile on his face and said from the heart, Ding. David Beckham, loyalty to Manchester United, 100. Haha, David, come in and sit down and talk. David, I have been a diehard Manchester United since I was a child, and I am a big fan of you. I super like you. That's the kind of man likes man to man, huh? After listening to Tan Wenle's words, David was also amused. The two of them chatted one by one. It seemed that Xiaobei was very relaxed, and Tan Wenle's spirit had recovered as usual after seeing Xiaobei. After a few small talks, Tan Wenle changed his tone and immediately cut to the point. David, you also know now, IMG has been acquired by me. I know that you have not signed a contract with any brokerage company now. With your conditions, many companies will come to you every year to discuss cooperation. But I still want to throw you an olive branch. I don't know if our small boat, whether it is an honor to let a global famous superstar like you board. David first smiled slightly, did not answer Tan Wenle directly, but looked down and thought. After thinking for a moment, Xiaobei replied to Tan Wenle, Chairman Tan, if you were not the current chairman of Manchester United, I would never consider signing a cooperation contract with you, to be honest. I'm tired of living like that. I can sign a short contract with IMG. Do you think that's okay? When David Beckham's words were finished, Tan Wenle extended his right hand and gave Beckham a thumbs up. Xiaobei's words and practices told Tan Wenle bluntly that he had no intention of signing with IMG, but in order to give back to Manchester United, he was willing to sign a short-term contract for Manchester United. He just wanted to repay Manchester United in this way, that's all. David, you just said that you are tired of living like that. Are you not going to continue your career? No, Chairman Tan, you misunderstood me. What I said is, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it right now, but I want to keep playing. I love football, but my age and competitive status. Already saying this, Tan Wenle obviously saw that David's eyes seemed to have begun to moisturize. Sorry, David waved his hand at Tan Wenle and apologized. David, if United needed you, would you come back? David originally moistened his eyes, and suddenly laughed. Chairman Tan, you don't have to do this. I have already said, my competitive state can no longer keep up with such a powerful Manchester United. Besides, Ferguson coaches him. The old man said that Manchester United do not need players with insufficient ability to join. Yes, how could Coach Alex Ferguson allow a useless person to go back and occupy one of his places? At 33 years old, can you really not kick? David, now, choose to put it in front of you. Don't you really try to fight for it? The old man said that there is no need for players with insufficient ability, but he didn't say that he was not allowed to ask for you. David Beckham was suddenly stunned. He seemed to understand a little, and he seemed to not understand what Tan Wenla meant. David, there are still 3 months to go before the winter window transfer period. If you can meet the basic requirements of Coach Alex Ferguson for players, in 3 months, I will submit a transfer application to the Los Angeles Galaxy pair. Of course, since you pay so much attention to Manchester United, you should also know the investment of Manchester United in the transfer period. As for Coach Alex Ferguson's request, you have followed him for so long, I think, you should know better than me, right? If you really love football and love Manchester United, if I were you, I would go back and start training now. Episode 33, First Alliance Group Headquarters. In front of Malcolm Glazer stood 3 young men. The 3 young men are his 3 sons, Brian, Edward, and Joel. Brian said, "Father, Liverpool rejected our £400 million takeover. They offered us a sale price of £750 million. Malcolm Glazer was furious. What did they think of themselves when they are the current Manchester United? Edward said, "Father, don't be angry. Liverpool spent a lot of money to bring in Torres this season, and Liverpool's 2 owners seem to be planning a last-ditch effort." Brian nodded and said, "Yes, why can't my father wait a year? Let's first see how Liverpool perform this season. If they still can't get any results, then those 2 old guys in Liverpool will definitely agree to sell." Okay, that damn Chinese man. Now Manchester United's valuation has risen to £25 billion, a club with a market capitalization of £15 billion. This is only 3 years, a full increase of £1 billion, Malcolm Glazer said with great heartache. Originally, according to Glazer's plan, the acquisition of Manchester United would not exceed £13 billion at most, but I don't know where a Chinese man appeared, which not only completely disrupted his acquisition plan, but also invisibly lost tens of millions of dollars. Malcolm Glazer couldn't swallow this breath. Brian said at this time, "Father, that Huaxia man is very mysterious, and until now we have not traced his details. Big brother, that Huaxia man is a nouveau riche with a bit of smelly money. Why are you so cautious?" Joel Gretz, who had not spoken, suddenly spoke at this time. "Fac, does money stink? If you think that money smells bad, from today onwards, don't ask Lao Tzu for a penny." Malcolm Glazer looked at his youngest son and roared angrily. Joel faced his father's anger and pouted and stopped talking. At this time, Brian persuaded, "Father, Joel is still young, don't be angry with him." "Humph, he's almost 30 years old, is he still young? I know what to play hip-hop all day. I really don't know how I gave birth to such a thing as you." At IMG's headquarters, Tan Wenla asked Kristen to be called inside the president's office. After Christine saw David Beckham, she was like a little fangirl, pulling Beckham to ask for an autograph. He also asked Tan Wenla to help him find a camera and take 2 photos of him. After sending David Beckham away, Christine watched the departing figure of Xiaobei for a long time, still obsessed with the place. Tan Wenla shook her hand in front of her eyes, and Christine came back to her senses. "Hee, boss, thank you, Aang." "Thank me for what?" "Thank you for letting me meet my idol David. Are you going to just verbally thank you?" Tan Wenla raised his head proudly and said. Christine gave him a blank look, and then left a lip print on his cheek. "In order to express my gratitude, I invite you to a concert in the evening." Christinba blinked his big eyes. A sweet and pure smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, staring at Tan Wenla and said, "Concert? Do you dare to go?" Christine shrugged. "I don't dare to go, and I'm not a particularly famous public figure. Twilight has not yet been released, and although Christine is a little famous in this circle, she has not yet reached the point of driving the people crazy at this time." "Okay, then I'll let you arrange?" Boss, then I'll go get busy first. I'll come here to find you in a moment." At night, Christine drove her car and pulled Tan Wenla to the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Tan Wenla looked at the crowd outside, looked at the obsessive Christine next to him, and said curiously, "There are so many people here. Who is holding a concert here today?" Christine took Tan Wenla's hand and said excitedly, "Mildew, Taylor Swift." "I lost Taylor's concert?" "No wonder. Taylor Swift in 08 is in the rising stage of his career, plus this one next to him. The future is the leader of the United States. In the next few years, Taylor Swift will be very well known all over the world, and her concert tickets will sell out wherever she plays." Throughout the concert, Christine was a crazy fan who was extremely obsessed with Taylor. Excited, she would put her arms around Tan Wenla next to her from time to time, and the two would occasionally kiss a few times. After the concert, Christine drove Tan Wenla back to the Mamego Hotel, and on the way Tan Wenla asked, "Christine, do you know Taylor?" "No, I just like her very much, but the 2 of us are engaged in different industries, and we have not interacted at present," Christine said calmly. "Oh, Taylor is an entertainer for that company now?" "Big Machine Records." Tan Wenla, he didn't seem to have heard of such a company. "How about you say I signed him into our company?" "Boss, I know you are rich, but money is not everything. Moreover, IMG does not have a professional music production team, although our company has several music artists, but the fame is relatively small. Wouldn't it be enough to buy a professional music broker?" "Wow, it's nice to be rich." After returning to the Mamego Hotel, the 2 knew that they lived next door. Christine came to Tan Wenla's door at this time, looked at him very strangely and said, "You this room you live in? What's wrong?" Christine looked at Tan Wenla with a look of disgust, turned her head and opened the door of her room and walked in. Snap. Christine flung the door very hard, and the suite's closed slammed shut, leaving Tan Wenla a little overwhelmed. Is this lady sick? Tan Wenla couldn't help but complain. Click. Christine's door opened again, and Christine popped her head out and said to Tan Wenla, "Boss, trouble you at night, is it okay to be quiet? It's easy to disturb others to rest. Be quiet?" Syllable. By Episode 34. The next day, Tan Wenla came to Marvel's studio with Max and Charlize Theron. On the way, Tan Wenla said to Max, "Max, what are the largest music production companies now?" "Boss, BMG Records, Universal Records, Warner Records, EMI Records, Sony Records. These 5 are known as the world's top 5 record giants." Max sat in the passenger seat and replied respectfully, "If you want to buy one of them, how much money will you need?" Tan Wenla asked lightly. Although Max has adapted to the way of chatting with Tan Wenla, he still showed a shocked look when he heard that Tan Wenla wanted to acquire the 3 major record giants. Charlize Theron, who was sitting next to Tan Wenla, grew his mouth in surprise. "Boss, the system of these 5 companies is different. Some are very large. They are not like IMG is a separate company, such as Universal Records. They are backed by the French Vivendi Group. Vivendi Group is a global top 500 company. Their market value has exceeded $10 billion US. Just tell me, these 5, whether they can be acquired by IMG, and if so, how much money can be needed?" "Max, boss, I need to go and understand this specifically before replying to you." Okay. After Tan Wenla and his party arrived at Marvel, after chatting with Kevin about the remake of Iron Man, Tan Wenla asked Max to buy himself a ticket to Toronto, Canada. Toronto General Hospital Inpatient Department. "Hey Kaka." "Yes, Chairman, why are you here?" Lying on the hospital bed, Kaka, who had just finished surgery, greeted Tan Wenla with a smile. Tan Wenla sat on the edge of Kaka's bed, and on the other side sat Kaka's father. "I went to Los Angeles and just stopped by to see you. How about surgery?" Tan Wenla asked with concern. Kaka's father smiled at this time and said, "Hee, Chairman Tan, the operation was very successful," the doctor said. "Kaka can be discharged from the hospital after observing for a week." Kaka, who was lying on the bed, sighed. "Chairman, I really hope that I can get better soon. I have always watched our matches, and I played very well." "Brother, your task now is to recuperate, and I hope to wait until you are completely healed before returning to the team. Rest assured, your salary will not lose a single point from you, haha." At this time, Kaka and his father were also amused by Tan Wenla's words. "Chairman, when I watched the game, I found you sitting in the coach's dugout," Kaka asked curiously. "Yes, the old man's persecution, you don't know. One day, I had a big fight with the old man, and then, because it was my bad attitude that angered the old man, I went to apologize to the old man, and after that, it became like this. The old man asked me to participate in the daily training of the team every day, and when I played, let me follow the coaching staff into the stadium, which can be regarded as a means of punishment," Tan Wenla said with a smile. Kaka looked at his father, and then Kaka seemed to understand something. "Chairman, what do you think of the way Manchester United play now?" "Now? I haven't decided on a stable set of technical and tactical play yet, and my quarrel with the old man is because of this." "Oh?" Kaka cast a curious look at Tan Wenla. "I think so." Subsequently, Tan Wenla and Kaka had an in-depth exchange of the team's techniques and tactics. Tan Wenla said a lot, and in Kaka's opinion, he was very, very professional. Listening to Tan Wenla's talk, Kaka was more sure of the thoughts in his heart. If the owner of a club not only understands the ball, but also moves the team's technical and tactical play, and the operation of the team, then this club will be an unbeatable existence in any league. Kaka is now deeply worried about the future of AC Milan. However, he is now a Manchester United player and he seems to have to think more about Manchester United. In the afternoon, Tan Wenla went out with Kaka's father to buy dinner for Kaka, and when he returned, Tan Wenla seemed to hear a crying sound. "Huh?" Out of curiosity, Tan Wenla followed the voice, which seemed to come from next door to the ward where Kaka lived. At this time, Kaka's father said, "A girl from Huaxia Kingdom who lived in yesterday. I heard that it seems that the operation fee was cheated by someone. Alas, this little girl is really pitiful." "A girl from Huaxia Kingdom?" "Uncle, the people who can come here to see a doctor seem to be either rich or expensive, right? Even if you are deceived, you will not be bankrupt, right? Hey, who knows?" At 9 p.m., Kaka's father interrupted Tan Wenla and Kaka, who were chatting happily. "Chairman, Kaka should be resting. Shall I take you back to the hotel?" "Well, okay, Kaka, then you rest first. Uncle, you don't have to send me. I live not far and walk 2 steps away. I'll come back tomorrow to see you." After saying goodbye to Kaka's father and son, Tan Wenla left the inpatient department, and before he could leave, Tan Wenla seemed to hear an inexplicable cry again. At first, Tan Wenla thought he had hit a ghost. However, after confirming that it seemed to be a human voice, Tan Wenla began to look for it out of curiosity. Because it was relatively dark, Tan Wenla didn't see who it was for a while, and after looking around, he saw a girl sitting there on a remote lawn, and the whole person was curled up. Her crying was small, but the night at Toronto Hospital was quiet, and this subtle crying seemed to contradict this tranquility. "Girl, you from Huaxia?" Tan Wenla came to the girl and asked in standard Chinese language. The girl did not look up, silently wiped her tears, and then slowly raised her head and said, "Well, I am from Huaxia, Angela." Zhang Xiaohan? Tan Wenla looked at the girl in front of him and was immediately surprised. Zhang Xiaohan saw that Tan Wenla recognized him, so he quickly lowered his head and covered his face with his hand. No, you recognized the wrong person." Tan Wen was happy to see her like this, and immediately sneered, I have listened to your songs since I was a child, watching the MV you filmed. How could I admit my mistake? Your star baggage is too heavy, I don't have a camera on me, and I'm not a paparazzi." After hearing Tan Wenla's mocking words, Zhang Xiaohan put her hand down, but she still tilted her head sideways and did not look at Tan Wenla head-on. Episode 35. This is Canada, how can I meet you as a fellow countryman? Can I sit down and talk to you? After Tan Wenla finished speaking, Zhang Xiaohan remained silent and did not speak. The girl in Ward A318 on the 9th floor, is that you? Just said I'm not a paparazzi. After hearing Tan Wenla's words, Zhang Xiaohan turned his head, with tears in the corners of his eyes, and said with a very aggrieved look, I am already like this, are you people still going to dig up news on me in exchange for payment? Although I am a public figure, but I am also a human being, can't you pity me? Can't you just let it go? I have nothing left, and you're going to do this to me, wuh. Saying that, Zhang Xiaohan cried again, this time she cried loudly, it seemed, completely let go. It's not yet to the point of crying, but it feels pretty much the same, and Tan Wenla, who was standing next to Zhang Xiaohan, was a little at a loss. However, Tan Wenla immediately recalled Zhang Xiaohan's life. Oh 8, that's right, at this time, Tan Wenla seemed to have thought of something. Angela, where is your assistant? Why are you sitting here by yourself? Run, don't want me, Zhang Xiaohan yelled hysterically. What about your mother? She doesn't care about me, the money I have earned for so many years is all in her hands. I came to Canada to see a doctor. She actually told me that there was no money. 7 years, my 7 years of hard work in exchange for her to treat me like this? Am I really her own daughter? Does she not even care if I live or die? Don't let dark clouds cover the blue of the sky. Don't let the bright moon soul turn back to the ship without pulp. The light melody slowly sang in the mouth of Tan Wenla, who loved to listen to songs and sing in his last life, but his singing skills were very average. However, at this moment, Tan Wenla could not think of any other way to pull Zhang Xiaohan back from his extremely collapsed mood. I had to bite the bullet and hum a song that would only appear more than 10 years later, and it just so happened that one of the original factories was this Angela in front of him, and he was not an infringement, right? And when Zhang Xiaohan heard this melody, his crying voice seemed to really become smaller. So, Tan Wenla continued to sing, don't let the night fall into your arms. Let me be with you. Don't let fog obscure the docked shore. Don't let your world be so disturbed. Don't let the light in your heart dim. Fly over lakes and mountains. With Tan Wenla's singing, Zhang Xiaohan had completely stopped crying. Quietly, dumbly, obsessively tilted his head to look at Tan Wenla. When Tan Wenla was finished, he looked at Zhang Xiaohan and said, are you in a slightly better mood? Who knows, Zhang Xiaohan pouted slightly, you're out of tune, Tan Wenla, but you sing well, and it's probably the best song I've ever heard in my life. Zhang Xiaohan squeezed out a smile at the corner of his mouth, and looked at Tan Wenla sincerely and said, I am really lucky to have your appreciation. If you're okay, can you sit with me for a while? Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla and said a little embarrassed, of course you can. Afterwards, Tan Wenla took off his coat and draped it over Zhang Xiaohan, and then sat opposite Zhang Xiaohan. Zhang Xiaohan seemed to be in a much better mood, and the corners of his mouth smiled slightly. How old are you? 19. Are you only 19? I didn't expect a 19-year-old child to be quite a gentleman. Saying that, Zhang Xiaohan grabbed the coat on his body. It's getting colder, and it's easy for you to get cold when you were so little, aren't you? Besides, you're still a patient. Saying this, Zhang Xiaohan seemed to recall what made her sad again, and her face instantly became depressed. How much will your surgery cost? Zhang Xiaohan frowned slightly, and then sighed, alas, little brother, my sister can see that you are a good boy, but, sister matter, my sister will figure it out by herself, you don't have to worry. Borrow money from a friend? After hearing Tan Wenla's words, Zhang Xiaohan's body was slightly startled, and then, she nodded at Tan Wenla like stagnant water. If your good friend really helped you, you should be resting in the ward now, instead of sitting here crying. Yes, my best sister, knowing that none of my calls are answering my phone now, and my assistant doesn't know where to go. I suddenly realized why the world has become so cruel, like my relatives and friends. Saying that, Zhang Xiaohan's tears broke down again. Tan Wenla sat opposite Zhang Xiaohan, silently watching her cry, not persuading her. Perhaps, at this time, people should really cry, right? Tan Wenla has been an orphan since he was a child. He doesn't know what family affection feels like. However, if you have such a mother on your own, it is not as good as not having one. One peerless wonder among hundreds of millions has been caught up by Zhang Xiaohan, alas, her life. This time, Zhang Xiaohan didn't cry for a long time, and after a while, Zhang Xiaohan touched the tears at the corners of his eyes, and then said to Tan Wenla with a slight choked voice, what's the name of the song you just sang? Called episode? Oh, Zhang Xiaohan secretly wrote down the title of the song. Then, Zhang Xiaohan raised his head, looked at the stars in the night sky, and sighed slightly. When Tan Wenla saw this, he opened his mouth and hummed. The brightest star in the night sky. Can you hear clearly? The one who looks up. Loneliness and sighs in the heart. Another short melody once again touched Zhang Xiaohan on the side. What's this song called? The brightest star in the night sky. Oh, Zhang Xiaohan secretly wrote down the title of the song again. Little brother, thank you for your coat today. It's nice to meet you. It's also a little late now. My sister is going back to rest. Shall I send you up? After getting up, Tan Wenla asked politely. No thanks. Zhang Xiaohan politely refused, saying that he was ready to take off his coat and return it to Tan Wenla. You dress first, return it to me tomorrow. My friend lives in the room next to you, and I will come to see him tomorrow. Zhang Xiaohan thought about it, and this time, she didn't refuse. Okay, then I'll see my little brother tomorrow. After that, Zhang Xiaohan turned around and walked towards the inpatient department. At this time, Tan Wenla's voice came from behind her. Sister, my name is Tan Wenla, don't call me little brother next time. Zhang Xiaohan turned around and smiled at Tan Wenla. After walking into the elevator, Zhang Xiaohan silently read Tan Wenla, this little guy is so cute. Episode 36. The next day, Tan Wenla came to the hospital early in the morning and brought some food by the way. Uncle, Kaka, I brought some breakfast, you guys eat. Oops, chairman, how embarrassing is this? Kaka's father quickly took the things from Tan Wenla's hand. Hey, it's nothing. By the way, uncle, I asked you to do something last night, did you do it? Well, yesterday I received your call, and I went to pay all the expenses required for the operation of the little girl next door. Well, you're in trouble for the big night. Chairman, you're welcome. Kaka's father smiled kindly. Later, Tan Wenla took a copy of breakfast, came to the next ward and knocked lightly on the door. Creak. The door of the ward slowly opened from the inside. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla, who appeared at the door, squinted slightly, and then said, come in. I stopped by and just brought an early breakfast. Saying that, Tan Wenla put the morning on the table in Zhang Xiaohan's ward. Zhang Xiaohan said lightly at this time, I've eaten. Oh, it's your coat. Zhang Xiaohan handed back the coat that Tan Wenla gave her yesterday. Tan Wenla took the coat in Zhang Xiaohan's hand and said, then you rest, I'll go first. Did you pay for my surgery? Tan Wenla smiled awkwardly and said, yes. Why? No, why? Tan Wenla replied very directly. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan took out the paper and pen that had been prepared long ago from the side and said, your name is Tan Wenla. What is the phone? What is the bank card number? I will collect enough money and transfer it to you. There is no need for this. This little money can wait until you have money in the future, and slowly pay it back. Zhang Xiaohan stared at Tan Wenla at this time and said, I don't know what kind of family conditions you have. Maybe, these money are nothing to you, but the two of us only met once yesterday, and we are not even friends. Why should I accept your help? After listening to Zhang Xiaohan's words, Tan Wenla sighed slightly in his heart. This girl, maybe she was stimulated too much yesterday, and her desire for self-protection is so strong? I thought we could be friends in that case, count me as having done it myself. Saying that, Tan Wenla picked up the copy originally prepared for Zhang Xiaohan earlier, and then, indifferently, said to Zhang Xiaohan, those money, you trouble you to help me donate to charity since I'm not a friend. I don't have to tell you my phone number or card number. After that, Tan Wenla was ready to leave. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan suddenly grabbed Tan Wenla's arm from behind. Wait, Miss Zhang, is there anything else? You are a person who sings badly, does things my own way. If you and I are friends, why don't you discuss with me in advance? Inexplicably accepting your favor will make me feel that I owe you a lot. Can we still be friends? Zhang Xiaohan inexplicably felt that she was very aggrieved and wanted to cry, but somehow her tear ducts seemed to be very low these days. Tan Wenla turned around and saw Zhang Xiaohan, who looked innocent, aggrieved and holding his mouth, let outsiders see it, and thought that he had bullied her. Get rid of it, don't look at me pitifully like this, okay? My heart is soft. I see that your heart is not soft at all. You just said a few words and are leaving. Saying that, Zhang Xiaohan took the earlier in Tan Wenla's hand. Isn't this bought for me? You're even going to take it away. Tan Wenla's face is full of capital question marks. What is this meow? However, after seeing Zhang Xiaohan unceremoniously eating the breakfast he bought, Tan Wenla smiled helplessly. Are girls so strange? What's so strange? Zhang Xiaohan, who was eating something, asked. There is an old saying in Huaxia, a woman's heart, a needle under the sea. Just said that he had eaten. The doctor came to me early in the morning and said that I was going to prepare for the operation. I asked the doctor about the operation fee, and the doctor told me that the people in the next ward had already paid for me, so I went to the next door to find you. But the uncle next door said that you are still on your way. So I have been waiting for you in the ward. Where do I have time for breakfast? So you've been waiting for me? Of course, I'm very upset with you. An angry Zhang Xiaohan pretended to be fierce and said with a look of great displeasure. Why, just because of the cost of the operation? Tan Wenla asked. This is only part of the reason, the operation fee. You did it from me, but we both realize that it has not been more than 24 hours, but you even lied to me. What? What am I lying to you? Tan Wenla suddenly felt that he was wronged and asked. Yesterday, the titles of the two songs you told me were all fake. I searched all the websites at home and abroad, and there were no two songs you said. Tan Wenla then understood what was going on. Hey, you mean this? I didn't lie to you, but these two songs haven't been published yet. Oh, yes, that's me misunderstanding you. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla apologetically and said, it's okay. By the way, who wrote those two songs? Why didn't he publish it? Who created it? This question stumped Tan Wenla all of a sudden. I don't know who created it. Anyway, it can't be me. But how can I explain this problem to her now? You can't say I'm a crosser, can I? I wrote? Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla with a puzzled expression, very disbelieving. I'll go, look at your expression, don't believe it? Zhang Xiaohan, gee, I really don't believe it. The point is, you don't feel all 5 tones. Oh, everyone should have dreams. If you have a dream, don't be afraid of pain. There is thunder that does not stop. The rain poured into the eyes and could not be seen clearly. Who was rushing wildly? Splashed me all over, the mud. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla, who was singing strange songs, and couldn't help it. Then, Zhang Xiaohan began to sing the song that Tan Wenla had just sung with her own understanding. It was okay not to sing. When she sang it herself, she suddenly found that this song seemed to be very suitable for herself to sing. On the contrary, it felt strange to sing it from Tan Wenla's mouth. Zhang Xiaohan asked Tan Wenla suspiciously, this song was also written by you? Huh? How do you write a girl's K? Tan Wenla, episode 37. I'm going to say I wrote it to you, do you believe it? Zhang Xiaohan shook his head in disbelief. Don't believe it. Well, after seeing you yesterday, I suddenly felt a feeling the word and this melody come out, but I can only hum, not professional music knowledge, so I can't make a complete song. Then you continue to hum, I'll listen. Okay. In the next few hours, in Tan Wenla's vigorous reply, an original song originally sung by Zhang Xiaohan was completely written. Zhang Xiaohan looked at the song that had jumped on the paper, and she seemed to like it very much and was very happy. Tan Wenla saw her sweet smile, not like Emma's innocence, not like Christine's bohemianism, and not like Charlize's enchantment. However, Tan Wenla felt that she was very beautiful, and a heartfelt joy was completely revealed in this sweet smile. You seem to like it. Zhang Xiaohan nodded vigorously. Don't be afraid, don't escape. This is not temper. It's the so-called ambition and courage. You can push me off the cliff. I can learn to fly. This word is literally written into my heart. Thank you, Tan Wenla, you gave me a lot of courage. Let me think that the world is still beautiful. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla with a sincere expression. She didn't even know how to express her gratitude to him. Tan Wenla did not speak. The two looked at each other like this, and for a while, anger felt a little strange. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla, and it seemed that he suddenly found that he was very mature, very sunny, and with such a trace of handsomeness. And Tan Wenla feels that although the girl in front of her has fallen to the bottom of life, she is still strong, and she can still show a sincere smile in grief to meet all the cruelty of this world. This kind of smile is really beautiful and beautiful enough to make herself stunned, beautiful enough to break all sadness. Angela. Huh? You are so beautiful. When Zhang Xiaohan heard Tan Wenla praise herself, her cheeks involuntarily flushed, but her gaze did not dodge, nor did she look down shyly, but looked straight at Tan Wenla and said, do you really think I'm beautiful? Tan Wenla nodded seriously and said, well, not limited to the beauty of the outside, your beauty is the strength of the heart, it is the desire for the beauty of the world. Looking at you, it will make me feel very distressed, not only because of your experience, maybe I think you are very lonely. Oops. At this time, a knock on the door interrupted the conversation between the two. Please come in. Zhang Xiaohan came back to his senses and shouted, hello, the operating table is ready, you can start the operation immediately. A doctor walked in and said, good. After Zhang Xiaohan answered, he looked at Tan Wenla again, waved the draft in his hand, and said, after my surgery, I will compose it and sing it to you. Good. Half an hour later, Zhang Xiaohan lay on the hospital bed and was pushed out by several nurses, and Tan Wenla also followed. Before entering the operating room, Zhang Xiaohan suddenly said, sorry, can you wait a little longer? In this way, the hospital bed stopped in front of the door of the operating room, and Zhang Xiaohan raised his right hand slightly at this time and looked at Tan Wenla not far away. Tan Wenla hurriedly stepped forward, grabbed Zhang Xiaohan's jade hand, and bent down to look at her. I'm a little scared, Zhang Xiaohan said to Tan Wenla with both apprehension and nervousness. Tan Wenla gently patted the back of Zhang Xiaohan's hand and said, take it easy, it's okay, just sleep, I promise, when you wake up, you can see me. After hearing Tan Wenla's words, the anxiety in Zhang Xiaohan's heart seemed to have eased a lot. You said on, if I wake up and don't see you, I'll never pay attention to you again. Zhang Xiaohan at this time was different from the past, and now she was completely like a little girl who was coquettish to her father. Tan Wenla said patiently, of course not, I have written a lot of songs here, when you wake up, I will slowly sing it to you. After hearing Tan Wenla's words, Zhang Xiaohan's restless cheeks finally showed a hint of a smile, and nodded vigorously towards Tan Wenla. Actually, I have a wish. I'm afraid of me. Don't talk nonsense. The doctors have said that your operation is not life-threatening, Tan Wenla suddenly said with a tiger face. Zhang Xiaohan shook his head and said, you listen to me. Good, good, you say it this time. Tan Wenla squatted directly next to Zhang Xiaohan's hospital bed, ready to listen patiently. Since I was a child, because of the poor conditions at home, I especially yearned for the beautiful fairy tale world, Interlaken in Switzerland, under the Jungfraujoch, on the shores of Lake Thun, where the train passes through the Alps. It must be very beautiful and beautiful. If I can, you give me a trip? Then, write a letter and tell me. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla with a hint of begging and said. Tan Wenla looked at the pleading girl in front of him, and the tip of his heart seemed to be pricked by something. Okay, I promise you. But you also have to promise me, if the operation is successful, after recovering from the disease, I want you to accompany me to Interlaken. Not only to Interlaken, but I want you to accompany me to see all the beauty of this world. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan suddenly pouted. How much does that cost? Tan Wenla stretched out his other hand and gently touched Zhang Xiaohan's head. Actually, I'm quite rich. Hey, okay, I promised you too. Tan Wenla sat in front of the operating room and waited for 5 hours. Ding. Finally, Zhang Xiaohan's operation was successfully completed, and the doctor came out of it. After Tan Wenla saw the doctor come out, he hurriedly stepped forward and asked, Doctor, how is the operation going smoothly? Although, Tan Wenla knew that Zhang Xiaohan's operation would go smoothly, after all, in his future, Zhang Xiaohan would also be active in the circle. However, after Tan Wenla sent her to the operating room, his heart was still very anxious and nervous. Seeing that Tan Wenla was so nervous, the doctor quipped, Young man, your girlfriend's operation went smoothly, but she is still in a coma, and she will come out of it in a while. Oh, phew. After hearing the doctor's words, Tan Wenla had a hanging heart, and then slowly let go. Doctor, how soon will she wake up, and what should I give her when she wakes up? Is there anything to be aware of? And there is. Episode 38. A day later, Zhang Xiaohan slowly opened his eyes. When she found out she was alive, she had mixed feelings in her heart. However, at this time, she was still a little weak, and she seemed to feel that her right hand was being pressed by some unknown object. She looked slowly, and found that it was Tan Wenla lying in front of her bed and falling asleep. Humph, you sleep as you sleep, why do you hold my hand? Zhang Xiaohan tried to pull her hand out, but she didn't seem to have extra strength, so she couldn't help but complain to Tan Wenla. However, Tan Wenla did not seem to react. I didn't realize that Zhang Xiaohan was actually awake. Tan Wenla Zhang Xiaohan, whose voice was a little hoarse and faint, called a few times and found that Tan Wenla did not move. So, he huffed and kicked him with his legs. Lying groove, who they hit me? Tan Wenla suddenly woke up and cursed at the air behind him. However, when he saw clearly and confirmed that there was no one behind him, at this time, he scratched his head inexplicably and said, Is it difficult to hit a ghost? If you're tired, go back to rest. Why do you sleep here? Suddenly hearing someone speak, Tan Wenla was startled. He seemed to be still immersed in his dream and did not come to his senses. When Tan Wenla turned his head and looked at Zhang Xiaohan, he realized what you awake? Huh? Looking at your appearance, it doesn't seem that you want me to wake up. Hey, no. Of course, I hope you can wake up, Tan Wenla said with a smirk. How long are you going to hold my hand? Zhang Xiaohan ignored his stupid look, but stared at his right hand that had been clutched by Tan Wenla and said, Oh. Tan Wenla then realized that he had been holding Zhang Xiaohan's jade hand. After being released by Tan Wenla, Zhang Xiaohan shook his hand slightly hard and said, How long have you been holding me? Why do my hands feel almost unconscious? Also, it didn't take long. Probably, maybe just fell asleep and accidentally grabbed it. Liar. Hey, Tan Wenla didn't know how to explain, so he kept smiling at Zhang Xiaohan, trying to hide his embarrassment. I really don't know. If I let her know that I pulled her for a day and a night, how would she react? Zhang Xiaohan was also speechless for a while in the face of Tan Wenla, who had been smiling, so he unceremoniously rewarded him with a beautiful big eye. I'm hungry. Are you hungry? Well, I prepared porridge for you, the doctor said. Let you eat something light, I'll go get it for you. Tan Wenla then brought a bowl of porridge from the back table and returned to Zhang Xiaohan's bed. Shall I feed you? Zhang Xiaohan looked at the very intimate Tan Wenla and nodded. Tan Wenla adjusted the angle of the bed for her, added a cushion behind her, and then, sitting on the edge of her bed, opened the lunchbox, took a bite with a spoon, and then gently blew it to Zhang Xiaohan's mouth. It's so hot. When did you buy it? After Zhang Xiaohan took a sip, he asked Tan Wenla curiously. Just delivered. How do you know when I'm going to wake up? What did the doctor tell you? Zhang Xiaohan asked with big eyes. Tan Wenla pointed to the ground on the other side and said, How do I know? It's just that since yesterday, I have been ordering food every 3 hours. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan looked in the direction pointed by Tan Wenla, and was surprised to find that there were more than a dozen bowls of lunch boxes similar to those in Tan Wenla's hands on the ground. Zhang Xiaohan suddenly felt warm in his heart, and after a warm smile, he said to Tan Wenla, You are so wasteful. When I wake up, it will not be late for you to order food. The doctor told me that when you wake up, you will definitely have hunger, and I don't want you to wait too long. Zhang Xiaohan said with a smile, I didn't expect you to be so considerate. If anyone can become your wife, then she will be blessed in this life. Marry a wife? I even had a hard time finding a girlfriend. You won't find a girlfriend? Zhang Xiaohan asked with a slight smile. Female friends may know a lot, and may know more in the future. However, marrying a daughter-in-law is different after all. What about the man who doesn't want to have a wife who thinks he is virtuous? Do you know a lot of female friends? It's not a lot, but I've met a lot of female friends lately. However, they all have one thing in common. What? Because of the benefits. Alas, man lives in this world, who does not live for profit? Zhang Xiaohan couldn't help but sigh. At this time, Tan Wenle brought another spoonful of clear porridge to her mouth and said, "Open your mouth. Ah, how do you feel like you're coaxing your girlfriend?" Although Zhang Xiaohan felt that it was a little awkward for Tan Wenle to feed her like this, she did not refuse the hot porridge that was handed to her mouth and warmed her heart. A week later, Kaka's body was almost recovered, and his father discharged him from the hospital. After that, Kaka was ready to return to England with his father. Tan Wenle did not go back with them, but stayed behind to continue to take care of Zhang Xiaohan. On this day, Tan Wenle pushed a wheelchair and took Zhang Xiaohan to walk around the hospital. As they walked, they were chatting about music. These days, Zhang Xiaohan has not taught Tan Wenle about music, and is slowly teaching him the correct singing voice. Soon, Tan Wenle's singing level improved a lot. After that, Tan Wenle and Zhang Xiaohan researched and composed many songs that he brought from a few years later. Fast forward 2 months. On this day, Tan Wenle and Zhang Xiaohan walked side by side in the hospital in Toronto. "Lele, my body is almost fine," Zhang Xiaohan said. "Well, looking at your appearance, I also feel almost good. And when I sang recently, I obviously felt that you were full of breath." Episode 39. Paris, France, meeting room in an upscale hotel. A group of suit bigwigs are in talks about the specifics of buying Manchester City in England. In the end, after several negotiations, a specific acquisition figure was finalized, and Mansour, a wealthy man from the United Arab Emirates, would buy Manchester City for £180 million, and Mansour would bear all of the foreign debt of Manchester City Club. After the acquisition, Mansour swallowed an expensive cigar in his hand in the conference room. Standing in front of Mansour is none other than Manchester City's current CEO, Soriano. "Boss, this is the list of team members, please take a look." Mansour looked at the list handed in front of him, pouted and said to Soriano lightly, "Regarding the personnel of the team, I have already read it seriously." Oh, Soriano put the list away with some embarrassment. Mansour continued, "Soriano, don't be nervous, I'm still very comfortable with your abilities." Soriano laughed awkwardly, still standing in front of Mansour with a groveling, not daring to say more. Manchester United has been running very well in recent years. "Well, Manchester United is a very rich club after all," Soriano answered. "Now that I bought Manchester City, Manchester United will be our club's biggest rival, right?" "Boss, the current strength of our team," I'm afraid Soriano did not dare to continue. "The current paper strength of Manchester City and Manchester United is simply a world of difference. I am naturally aware of the gap between us and Manchester United, but I want you to smooth this gap in the shortest possible time." "Boss, this task is difficult. If you feel you can't do it, you can quit." Mansour stared at Soriano expressionlessly and said, Of course, I will give you maximum financial support. As long as it is beneficial to the club, I will agree." "Boss, do you mean to thoroughly purge and rectify the structure of the team?" "Of course, you finally see what I mean. I don't care about money. I only care about reputation. I want Manchester City to be the best and strongest team in the Premier League and even the world. I don't care how much money is needed for this purpose." Mansour opened his arms and said to Soriano very domineeringly, "Okay, boss, I'll go back and work on a new team structure. I promise. It will be satisfactory to the owner." Mansour looked at Soriano with satisfaction and nodded, and then continued, "Did Manchester United really offer Messi?" "Yes, boss, but I think their offer for Messi is more to confuse Real Madrid. And Manchester United's target should be AC Milan's Kaka." This Manchester United, buying all my favorite cards is really disgusting." "Soriano, I don't care what method you use, dig Messi over for me." "Boss, are you serious? Messi is sky high. Moreover, Barca will not necessarily sell on Manchester United even if it is a smoke bomb. But after all, Messi once quoted a transfer fee of €200 million. Barca refused." "Dear Soriano, I am beginning to doubt your ability. What you have to do, not cry to me here about how expensive Messi is. Are you looking down on the strength of our UAE royal family? Now, go and find a way to do it immediately, whatever the way, to dig Messi over. This is what you should do now." "Okay boss, I'll figure out how to." It is reported that the mysterious rich businessmen in the Middle East have reached an acquisition agreement with the Manchester City team, and Manchester will usher in the head-on PK of the two rich businessmen in the same city. The Times. Shocked that once belonging to the city of Manchester, Manchester City, another Premier League club in Manchester, has made an offer for Messi of Barca, and the rich people in the Premier League seem to want to have Messi, a super genius. Sky Sports. The rich man in the Middle East has completed the acquisition of Manchester City, according to the news. The purchase price is £180 million, and the new owner of Manchester City will bear all the debts previously owed by Manchester City FC. Manchester Chester is really ushering in a beautiful spring. Manchester City Club can look forward to the future. Manchester Post. Is a lot of money pouring into football really a good thing? The Sun. Ferrari has signed a huge sponsorship contract with Manchester City, and it is reported that this contract was brought to the team by their new owner, London Evening Standard. The Golden Globe will be presented on November 5th at the Theatre Châtelet in Paris, France, and the most popular one is still Cristiano Ronaldo, French football. Manchester United continue their winning streak and the gap with second-placed Chelsea has widened to 10 points, Yorkshire Post. At the Carrington base, in Ferguson's office, Ferguson shouted in a hurry, he doesn't care about the team, and he won't come to the award ceremony in Cristiano? This is an honor for the whole club, isn't it comparable to him spending time outside drinking? In front of Ferguson, David covered the phone and whispered, Boss, you heard it too, Coach Ferguson wants you to attend the Golden Globe Awards ceremony in Paris on the 5th. Well, good, boss, where are you now, and what time are you in Paris? I'll pick you up then, huh? East Island? Boss, where did you go? Oh, okay, I know, I'll pass it on to Coach Alex Ferguson. Then, after David hung up the phone, Ferguson's angry expression just now changed instantly, and in a blink of an eye, he changed into a smile and said to David, how is it? What does the chairman say? Hey, Sir Alex Ferguson, why are you suffering? The boss is not an athlete, why do you care about so many things in his private life? David shook his head speechlessly and said, you know what, although he is not a football player, but his talent for football is better than any athlete. Okay, you tell me, where he is now, how ready to come back. The boss said that he is now in Huaxia, East Island, and after dealing with some things, he will fly directly to Paris, and then he will go directly from Paris back to Manchester. After listening to David's words, Ferguson leaned back in his chair and laughed happily. Episode 40. A high-end community in East Island. After Zhang Xiaohan returned to her home from Canada, she realized that her home had been sealed. Zhang Xiaohan squatted in front of the house that had been sealed down. She would never have thought that everything in front of her was true, and her mother was really so ruthless that she didn't even leave a house for herself. Is she really my mother? After talking to herself, a few tears fell silently in her eyes. At this time, a familiar arm wrapped around her. Zhang Xiaohan suddenly looked back and saw that it was Tan Wenle. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan no longer thought about anything else, she just wanted to lie in his arms and cry. Emotionally broken, she threw herself directly into Tan Wenle's arms, hugged his neck, hugged him tightly, and cried bitterly. Tan Wenle hugged her quietly, letting her cry in his arms. It wasn't until she was hoarse that it quieted down. Tan Wenle gently stroked her back with one hand and said, I'll find you a place to live first, right? Zhang Xiaohan did not speak, still leaning expressionlessly in Tan Wenle's arms. Tan Wen was happy to see that she didn't speak, so he directly stopped her and picked her up. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan was finally awakened in the confusion. What are you doing? Zhang Xiaohan exclaimed, and then began to struggle. Who knows, Tan Wenle said fiercely, don't move. After that, she was carried by him and came to a hotel. After opening a room, Tan Wenle carried her into the room and put her on the soft bed. After that, Tan Wenle just remembered to get up. Who knows, Zhang Xiaohan grabbed his arm from behind and said, don't go. I'm not leaving, I'll go pour a glass of water. Zhang Xiaohan suddenly snorted coquettishly towards Tan Wenle. Tan Wenle was helpless, and then half lay beside her. After that, Zhang Xiaohan leaned over quietly and lay quietly. The two waited quietly like this, they didn't say a word, or even make unnecessary movements. Until dawn the next day, Tan Wenle woke up from his sleep, and he turned his head to see that she was still like a kitten, holding her arm and curled up beside her. Tan Wenle gently brushed her hair and smiled very spoiledly. Then, he kissed her on the forehead a little uncontrollably. At this time, Zhang Xiaohan also seemed to wake up dimly. Tan Wenle quickly lay down and pretended that he was still sleeping. Zhang Xiaohan on the side didn't seem to wake up, but there was a sweet smile on the corner of his mouth. Neither of them went out for the next few days, but the East Island media seemed crazy to report about her. All kinds of scandals and all kinds of gossip filled all the streets and alleys for a while. In the hotel, when she learned about the public opinion outside through the TV program, she collapsed again. She called her mother, but the phone couldn't get through. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and said to herself, it turns out that in this world, there are really people who don't want their daughters. She doesn't want it. I want it. Tan Wenle reached out to wipe the tears from her cheeks and said softly. Zhang Xiaohan broke through and smiled. Are you planning to keep me? It's a hard word, but I can really raise you. Zhang Xiaohan smiled happily, and then held Tan Wenle's cheek and said sincerely, Tan Wenle, I know that you are very good to me, but now I am not worthy of you at all. Your life should be more exciting and beautiful, instead of finding a woman like me who everyone shouts and scolds. I just like you. No one can change this. Maybe you really like me, but maybe you're more out of compassion. No, I'm pretty sure, I really like you. Tan Wenle said a little anxiously. How do you make me believe you? Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenle very seriously and said, Tan Wenle didn't know how to answer for a while. Zhang Xiaohan looked at the hesitant Tan Wenle, and laughed out loud. Look, you don't know it yourself. When Zhang Xiaohan was halfway through his words, who knows, Tan Wenle took out a beautiful small box from his pocket. Zhang Xiaohan's pupils dilated suddenly, and he said in shock, you wait. Tan Wenle had just taken out the thing, and before he opened it, he heard Zhang Xiaohan's words, so the small box was held by Tan in midair and didn't know what to do. Zhang Xiaohan naturally knew what was in it, and looked at him with a puzzled expression. Do you really think about it? No regrets? No regrets. Looking at Tan Wenla's determined expression, Zhang Xiaohan fell into deep thought. She didn't know if she should accept this sudden surprise. It would be a turning point in her life. However, looking at Tan Wenla in front of him, this guy who had been by his side when he was most disappointed, Zhang Xiaohan's heart was still loose. Zhang Xiaohan sat on the bed, patted the position in front of him, and motioned for Tan Wenla to sit down. Seeing this, Tan Wenla sat down in front of her very obediently. If you want me to accept it, you promise me a few things. Yes, ask you to mention it casually. I can promise you anything. Tan Wen was happy to see that she was relieved, so he quickly nodded and answered. First point, after I accept it, I don't want the outside world to know about the relationship between the two of us. Tan Wenla sighed slightly in his heart. Is she worried that her current reputation will affect me? She's such a silly woman. Yes. After seeing Tan Wenla agree, Zhang Xiaohan continued, I don't want you to participate in my family affairs. Alas, okay, and what? Tan Wenla said a little speechlessly. And most importantly, I hope to sign a premarital property certificate with you. Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla and said without doubt, what? Proof of premarital property? You don't agree? Zhang Xiaohan looked at Tan Wenla warily and said, No, I didn't mean that. I mean, are you sure you want to do that? Zhang Xiaohan nodded resolutely and said, Well, I know that you are rich, and I am not sure whether you really love me now, but I do like you and am willing to be with you. But I hope that in the future, when you don't like me, or think that I am redundant, I can leave you without any disputes. I'm really scared going through a dispute. Okay, it's okay to sign this, but I also have a few conditions. You say.